What's up, Minecrafters? KC here, and welcome to episode 6 of my modWorld series. Today I'm going to be building an area where I can heal pretty rapidly. You'll notice currently my health is a little bit low, and what I would like to do would be to design an area where if I stand in that particular area, my health will slowly increase. So the first thing I want to do is I want to decide what that area might look like. How do I define a healing zone, if you will? So I think for me, I'm going to define that as a set of blocks in kind of a plus pattern or a plus shape. And I think I'm going to use diamond block and quartz block to define that. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to use the update feature that I built into my wand during the last episode. And so I'm going to use, I think, a diamond block as the center of my healing station, and that's block ID 57. So if I just tap a block after putting my wand in update mode, I've specified that I want that to be a diamond block, and now it is. And then the other type of block that I'm going to use is a block of, maybe I'll use quartz, and that is block ID 155. So now I can complete defining that area or that space that is going to become a healing zone. So the idea is I can come and I can stand on this diamond block, and if there is a diamond block that has the quartz block surrounding it, that will be the definition of my healing zone. And so I want to detect if the player is standing in that area. If so, and they require some level of healing, then that player would be slowly healed over time. So again, that is the structure that I'm going to use for my healing zone. And now I'm going to begin working on the modPE script to make that healing actually happen. So in my code editor, there's a few things that I need to define here. First, I need to create a method to determine where the player is standing. So again, I want to make sure that I'm standing on top of a diamond block. So to do that, I'm going to write three functions that return to me the x, the y, and the z coordinates for the player. So I'm going to create a new function, and I'm going to call this player x. And again, this is going to return me the x coordinate. And this is going to simply return, I'm going to again use the parse int function to return me an integer value. And then I'm going to call a method of the player object called getX. And getX returns actually a decimal value of your location within the world, but the parse int will remove the decimal portion of the number and just return a whole number, which would be the x location. And then I'm going to want to do the same thing for the y and z coordinates. So I'm going to copy that function, the player x function, a couple of times, and so now I'm going to change this to be the player y. Now this needs to work just a little bit different due to the nature of the way Minecraft returns the coordinates for the vertical location of the player. It's always based on the player's eye level. And so just kind of knowing the height of a player in Minecraft, I would need to subtract a certain block size from player.getY to actually return the block that is below the player. So by subtracting 1.7, what that will do is again return me the block that is below the player where they currently are. So I need to take out one of those parentheses because I'm going to take the get y value and then I'm going to subtract 1.7 from that value. Then finally, I will work on the player z function. And again, that's going to be very simply calling the player.getZ. But with these three functions now, I have the ability to know exactly where I am within the world. And again, what I'll be doing is using those to determine whether or not I'm standing on a diamond block. If I am standing on a diamond block, what are the blocks surrounding it? Or is it those quartz blocks that I'm interested in? So I will be using those functions to help determine whether or not I'm standing in a healing zone. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to begin working in a function called modTick. And what modTick does is it's called once every 1/20th of a second, or 20 times a second. And so within that function, you have the ability to do other things, to check, for example, in this case, whether or not I am currently standing on a diamond block and whether or not the player needs healing. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable called tick, and I'm going to set that to 0 to start with, and then I'm going to use that in the modTick function to determine whether or not the player needs to be healed. So the modTick function, again, is a function that is called from the modPE scripting engine, and it's very simply named modTick, and it has no parameters. But again, within modTick, modTick again gets called 20 times a second, and what I'm going to do here is when modTick is fired, I'm going to increment my tick count because I won't necessarily want to check to see 20 times a second whether or not the player gets healed. I may have it just, or needs to be healed, I may just have it check once per second. And so I can use this tick counter to help define that. And so what I will do here is check to see if tick is 20. I know that 1 full second has elapsed. So I'm just going to reset my tick count here back to 0, and then I'm going to call a new function that I write called do check heal. So it's going to be inside this do check heal function that I determine whether or not the player is standing in a healing zone and whether or not they need to be healed, and then actually perform the healing process. So again, by checking here for tick equal 20, I know that modTick has been called 20 times, and again it's called 20 times per second, so that I know that I'm operating on a 1 second interval. So the next thing for me to do will be to actually write that check heal function. And I think I'm going to do that just below these new functions I've created, where I get the player X, Y, and Z. And so again, I'm calling this function check heal. It really doesn't require any parameters. I will be getting all of the information I need within inside this function. So first, I'm going to determine where the player is by using my new player X function. And I'm just going to capture that and store that in a variable named X. I'm going to do the same thing for the Y coordinate, and then finally the same thing for the Z coordinate. So I've now captured the values that let me know where the player is within the world. Now I need to begin checking to see if they are standing in one of these healing zones. So I will want to get the block ID that the player is standing on. So I'm going to be using the level.getTile function, passing in the X, Y, and Z coordinates that I have determined from the player X, player Y, and player Z functions. So I know that this is going to return to me the block type or the block ID that the player is currently standing on. So again, for me, I would want to check to make sure that this is equal to the block ID for a diamond block. And if that's not the case, I really don't want to go into the function of checking for the healing and determine whether or not the player needs to be healed. So by testing for block ID equals 57, I know that I'm standing on a diamond block. So the next thing that I will need to do will be to check to see if the blocks around the diamond block are the quartz blocks that I expect to be there. So I will do something very similar here. I will do a level.getTile, but here I'm going to check x minus 1, which would be a block next to the diamond block that I'm standing on, and then the same x or the same y and z coordinates. I will do the same thing, maybe store that in a variable called block or bid2, and then I'm going to want to check x plus 1, which would be sort of the opposite side of the diamond block in the x-axis, and then do something very similar with two additional variables that are also checking the z-axis. So it would be x, y, and then z minus 1. And then finally, in block ID 4, I'm going to be getting the tile that is in x, comma, y, comma, z plus 1. So again, the z minus 1 and the z plus 1 are checking the blocks in the z direction on either side of the diamond block that I'm standing on. So the next thing that I would want to check here would be to see if those blocks that I now know the block type are all quartz blocks. So I can do that in my if statement here. So if block ID 1 is 155, which is the block ID for quartz block, and BID 2 is 155, and BID 3 is 155, and then finally BID 4. So all four of those blocks would have to be quartz blocks before I would get inside of this if condition here. So at this point, I know where the player is. I know what type of block they're standing on, and it happens to be they are on a diamond block. Then I'm getting the blocks surrounding the diamond block and making sure that those are all quartz blocks. So at this point, I know that they are standing in a healing zone. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to determine the player's health. So I'm going to create a new variable called health, and I'm going to set that to parse int to return me an integer value. And I'm going to use a function off of the entity object called getHealth. And I want to get the health of the player entity. So again, using another built-in function of modPE, I'm going to use the getPlayerInt value, which returns me the entity ID of the player. And then finally, I will close that off. And so now health should represent the number of half hearts of health that a player has. So a player at full health would have 20 health or half hearts of health. So if my health is less than 20, then that means that the player is not at full health, and so we would then enter the healing process. So if that's the case, I'm going to set health equal to health plus 1. So I'm incrementing the player's health by a half heart. And then I'm going to use a function, again, off of entity object called entity.setHealth. And then I'm going to pass in, again, the entity ID of the player as the entity to be healed. And then I'm going to pass in the health value that I want to assign to the player. So I have incremented the player's health by a half heart, and then I'm assigning that new health value to the player entity. So just a quick review here. I don't see any mistakes that I've made. The check heal method, again, is going to be called once per second because of the way that I am handling that inside of mod tick here at the bottom. And so if that's the case, I'm going to call do check heal. So I need to change my function name here. So calling that do check heal again, because that's what's being called from mod tick. So everything here seems correct to me. So again, I will need to load this script up into modPE through Block Launcher, and then I will test to see if when I enter that zone, the healing process begins working properly and my hearts are restored at the rate of 1/2 heart per second. So I'm going to save my script, and I'm going to go back over to Block Launcher, load that, and enter the Minecraft game. So my script loaded successfully, but again, that doesn't necessarily mean that the functions that I created and the logic that I used necessarily work properly. As you can see, I'm currently not at full health. I'm basically 7 half hearts short of full health. And I'm not healing currently, which I would not expect to be because I'm not standing in a defined zone that I expect the player to be standing in for the healing function to begin. So I'm going to slowly move into that zone, and my expectation is that I begin to heal 1/2 heart per second. So I'm going to move over top of the diamond block now, and you can see that my health is actually going up, and I will shortly be fully healed, and I am. So that seems to be working properly. So I might now want to just check that again. I'm going to change it to nighttime through my day-night switch and just wander around a little bit and see if I can find some mobs that may cause some damage to me so that I can check that again. So here is a skeleton. So I'm just going to approach the skeleton and allow him to damage me slightly. So there's one hit. Skeleton doesn't seem to be terribly accurate with his arrows. Okay, so that should be enough. I will just go ahead and take care of the skeleton, and then I'm going to move back over to my day-night switch and change to daytime. But now I should be able to enter my healing zone again and make sure that the healing process begins. And again, you can see at the top that it does. So I believe my healing zone is working properly. I can always come back to this zone if I have taken some damage and heal very quickly. So again, I think that is going to be a very helpful addition to this world. But again, it was a good exercise for me to go through in learning the scripting required in modPE to perform that, which again is my primary goal. And so I took a little bit of damage there from that spider and then entered the healing zone, and everything seemed to be working properly. So I think I will end the episode here. I've successfully created that healing station, and I am satisfied with the way that is working. So thank you for watching, and I look forward to the next episode.